Thanks, Bill. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm Ms. Carter from the Ohio State University Libraries. I'm the Associate Director for Special Collections and Area Studies there. And I'm really excited to be talking about teaching with primary sources because this is an area that we have some strength in. So I'm going to talk today about leveraging our distinctive collections for deeper engagement across the university in conjunction with the university mission. So where we started at Ohio State when I came there 7 years ago is that we already had a great deal of strength in our teaching and learning department in the libraries around information literacy, so we're already well known for that. And then our special collections were really actually very active in teaching with primary sources already. But some of the other folks in the library needed to be brought along a little bit in terms of shifting from being very collections-oriented to being more user-oriented and student-oriented. So my colleague, the Associate Director for Research and Education, worked on an engaged librarian framework. And I said, well, we'll pick that up too, and even though we're doing some of this stuff, we will show how special collections is a model for this, and then start experiencing more exciting engagement opportunities. So this is, I think, been provided as a reading material for you. We are no longer using this engaged librarian framework because we're now evolving out of it. So. As some of my colleagues have already talked about, we are very much engaged in teaching and learning because it is part of our strategic plan in the libraries to align with the university's strategic plans. So our old strategic plan had engaging with faculty across the curriculum and increasing alignment of library-sponsored programs and exhibits with university-level initiatives, and then our new strategic direction, and by the way, where there's red highlights, that means you can go into the slides and click through and get more information later. We're now equipping students for lifelong success with teaching and learning effectiveness and 21st century literacies, among other things. And then we're also engaging for broader impact with cultural programming and campus and external partnerships. So behind all of this are some principles that in special collections and area studies, our collections are meant to be used. That's why we collected them in the first place. And that we, as we shift to deeper engagement in the classroom, we also need to streamline our introductory sessions. So those show and tell sessions that you do to sort of introduce undergraduates into special collections and get them to, like, you have to use pencil, you have to put your stuff in a locker, all that stuff. We're trying to streamline that, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And then also building relationships is a key part of this work, and that's building relationships with faculty, graduate students across campus, and other partners. We also have these tools that the profession has provided for us, the new ACRL Framework for Information Literacy Toolkit, which our Research and Education Department is leveraging really effectively. The SAA Teaching with Primary Sources, our university archivist is one of the authors for that. And then also SAA and RBMS's guidelines for primary source literacy. And so we're basing a lot of our work on these tools. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some examples in a minute. But one thing that really enables us to leverage our distinctive collections in the classroom is that our librarians are embedded as an affiliated faculty in departments. So for example, our theater curator is an affiliated faculty member in theater. Dance curator is affiliated faculty in dance, and they teach classes. So they teach research methods courses, they teach the freshman seminar, some of the freshman seminars. They act as mentors for the first-year experience students and for the second-year transformational experience. These are big programs across campus to make sure that first-year students are getting the support and mentorship they need, or the second-year students are then moving into deciding what their future holds. And then we also sponsor some undergraduate research awards with the Office of Undergraduate Research. And so the far picture is of our Denman Research Forum that happens in our Buckeye Reading Room in the libraries. So we're providing a campus service by showing off undergraduate research. And then the nearer photo is of one of our students who actually got an undergraduate research award, did research in our Czech collections and leveraged those to do an undergraduate research program, get a grant, and work with us. So our faculty are already very well embedded in classes for active learning. And when I say active learning, it's not just bring them in, show them the stuff, have them flip through a few materials, but it's actually then understanding those materials to leverage the course outcomes, the learning outcomes of the course. So our librarians sit down, our curators and librarians sit down with the faculty at the beginning of the course and say, what are you trying to do here? What are your learning outcomes? And then they construct assignments and engagement opportunities around those learning outcomes. So for example, here for MedRun 5611, we had the students actually adopt a book. They worked through the book as a physical object, and then they actually presented that book to the public. And so it was offered as an open session where anybody could come in and talk to these students about the books that they had sort of intellectually deconstructed and learned about both the subject of the book, but also the format of the book. In design, we actually had, this guy's a master printer, and he came in to talk about our Curtis show print collection. And you can see here that the students are asking him questions about what it's like to be a master printer, what the different ways of communicating information about plays and other performances. And this embeddedness for our librarians and curators results in opportunities where people come to the libraries and want to put on performances. So what you see here is some dance students actually dancing in our atrium because of the long and embedded history of our dance curator in that department. And then theater asked to stage the Silent Soldier project. So that each of these students, theater students, are presenting a different soldier from World War I. And they stood silently in our atrium, and people would walk up to them and they'd get a business card that said who they were and whether they survived the war or not, and what they went on to do after the war. So our curators, as I said, are very active in redesigning courses. Our university archivist is actually a co-teacher for the OSU history course. And you can see here that they get the students in, they do archival research as part of the course, and they use primary source materials. This digital humanities project was the outcome of Dance 4490. And you can go there and actually take a look at it. But our Charles McHady collection was used. It's a burlesque carte de visite collection. And students learned about what it was like to be a performer, a burlesque performer in the time period. And then they were able to build out stories about how it relates to other kinds of performance today, including trans performance and other, the revitalization of cabaret and that sort of thing. And then most recently, just a couple weeks ago, the architecture seminar took apart our Albrecht collection. Again, each student picked a book and they learned about its history, and these were architecture students, so they're not English students or history students. They're looking at this from an architectural standpoint and trying to connect their current learning with the history of architecture using our special collection in that area. We also leverage our exhibits for teaching and outreach on campus. So recently we had the immigration exhibit. This is the opening thing where you see that new immigrants aren't so welcomed by people who have come to the US and made their fortune, even though they look just like the person they're now not welcoming. And so that translates really well into this image of the wall on our wall. But this was leveraged in many classes. So the curators got out, they talked to different departments, and they encouraged faculty to bring students into the exhibit and then build assignments and things off of that. We then also paired our Latin American Studies librarian paired up with the cartoon library. So these are images from the cartoon library to host the Day of the Dead event, which not only leveraged the immigration exhibit, but also invited in the community to have kids who actually got to see the Book of Life before the event. They got to see Andy's dancers, and then they got to build their own Day of the Dead masks, and that was really fun. We also do some exhibiting student work, so our Latin American Studies librarian, again, has taken her experience with cartoon and with rare books, and she has leveraged that into a learning experience for the students where they're building off of existing fictional narratives in the Latin American Studies collection, and then creating their own narratives that we then exhibited. And we do this a lot in special collections as well, so the theater students, the rare book students, after the course is done, we then exhibit the materials as a cohesive exhibit. So, of course, this gives us all this activity. We've really ramped it up. All this activity does present several challenges and opportunities. So we have found in both Special Collections Thompson, which includes Rare Books and Theater Research Institute, and the Hillenauer Research Library, as well as Billy Ireland, that we have too many courses and not enough curators or spaces to teach those courses in. As we try to exhibit student work, we only have so many exhibit cases, and the gallery turnover is a lot of work for our exhibits coordinator team. And then, of course, once you're really teaching effectively with special collections resources, you get more student researchers in your research room, which means a lot of work for your research room team, both in instructing the students how to be good researchers if they didn't get that in class, or to reinforce those learning opportunities, but then also just spaces for people to work, and then you have to think about hours. Are you going to change your hours so that students get to your spaces? We've also reallocated staff to support more introductory sessions, so we've moved people who were doing processing into instructional teaching at the very basic level to do these sort of tours, showcase materials, and here's how you use special collections. And then we're working on improving our tutorials and improving websites so that there's a basic level of information on the web that students can go to get the introductory information so that they don't have to sit through our very expertise curators in teaching them how to do that stuff. And then, of course, we have some other strategies that we've been leveraging. So teaming up and engaging with subject librarians, again, the Latin American Studies, crossover with Billy Ireland Cartoon Library. We need to start developing toolkits, and one of the things I like to talk about is the idea for both our subject librarians and our special collections librarians. You can't be an expert in everything. You're an expert in your area, but you kind of put all of your colleagues in a little backpack when you go out to a class. And if they're asking you about digital humanities, you can say, well, I don't actually know a lot about that, but I can refer you to our digital humanities librarian. Or I actually don't know a lot about copyright, or I don't know the exact answer to your question, but we'll bring Sandra along at the next class meeting, and then she can answer your questions about copyright. And then we also want to empower our faculty to actually be able to teach these courses by themselves. So once you've helped them redesign their course, you can step away and let the teaching faculty teach the course in the future, and then you can turn your attention to a different course. And with that, you end up with more engaged teaching in the classroom. So this is again in our architecture library, where we've leveraged our Albrecht collection again, so that students can actually touch the things and think about them as their history as architecture students. So thank you.